Okay, so Anthony, we are here finishing up the last part of your Imparitus model. As you can see, since the last time I was on, I have attached the main fin, whatever that is, on the back of him, I don't know, and then the shoulder as well. What I want to do tonight is explain how and demonstrate how I achieved this OSL effect that I have going on the shoulders here, and then on the back down this fin. Of course, also on the rest of the model too. You can see the OSL is happening all over the place there. So you remember the last time I was on, I had sprayed frostbite over all these areas and had something that looked akin to what you see here on the shoulder pad and then also on the fin. So tonight we're going to go over how to go from this to this. Alright, and the main ingredient is this P3 turquoise ink, and also a wet palette and a nice brush. So there's a couple ingredients, not just one. So get your wet palette ready, get a couple drops of the ink, onto your wet palette. 2 or 3 should do for now. And then if you've got a bottle that you keep around of water, add a couple drops of water near the couple drops of ink, and I'll explain why in just a moment. So here's my palette, here's 2 drops of turquoise ink, here's a few drops of water right there. Okay, now the trick is here, Anthony, you don't want to you don't want the ink to be too thick. That's not the right word. You don't want the ink to be too concentrated. Okay, you want your ink to be pretty darn thin, and you're going to build this up in a couple of layers. All right, you don't expect to get this effect in one go. All right, and you're going to kind of have to play around with it a little bit too. It might take 2 or 3 passes in some point at some spots to get the effect that you are really looking for. So you might have to play around with it and stuff. Just keep that in mind. The other ingredient that you need that I failed to mention is a jar or cup of fresh, clean water. You don't want to use your normal mixing water for this. It looks dirty, but that's the cup, trust me. Someone's asking in chat about stencils and a conquest in red. That's going to take a little more time to explain than I have right now. When I get to the end of my show tonight, I will ask that question. You could also, if I don't get to it, if by chance I forget, my apologies, it's nothing personal. Scott has paid me for this time, so that's why I'm focusing mostly on him. But you can feel free to email me. Excuse me, not Scott, Anthony. Scott was paying me, but we're done with Scott now. But you can feel free to email me at redmodeling@gmail.com, and I can give you take a little more time to answer your question. So we're going to start here with this shoulder pad, okay? And where I'm going to start is right here at the bottom. All right, and we're going to get all this little recessed area done, and along with these gems. So what I do is I'll literally dip the tip of my brush into the ink and move it over to the side here, and then the tip of my brush into the water, and just kind of mix that up. And you can see how thin that is on my wet palette there, right? And then when I put it on my skin here, again, you can see how thin that is. That's still probably even too concentrated, to be honest. So I'm going to thin it down just a little bit more, and I'm going to focus this ink now like a wash, but only in the recesses. Okay, try to stay off of the like on these gem pieces here. Try to stay off of the high part of the gem. Just get it around the low part of the gem. If you get it on the high part, that's no big deal. We're going to go back with some Morrow white and add some highlights in when we're all done here. Okay, and then the next thing I do is I just kind of lightly wash the whole area, pulling my brush towards where the color is going to be the most concentrated at, and that just kind of adds a soft, it helps enhance the soft overall glow that's going on. And I'll take a little bit of a more concentrated wash of ink now, and again focus on the same areas again, letting it pull up in those deepest parts. You really need to have a brush with a good tip to do this. And that's about it, guys. I mean, the airbrushing is probably the hardest part of this, but this inking like this is super simple. And you can see the difference that makes. Okay. Now on the recessed area right in here, that's going to be a little more concentrated. Okay, so I'm going to just wash this all in general. Don't bother with trying to keep it off of the high points. We'll go back and touch that up with a brush. Just get your wash coverage in there nice and even and full. Okay, I'll go to this big gem right there. This one you want to start out with a little bit of a thin mix and just focus on the recess around the gem. Bring that ink just up a little bit on the sides there. We're going to blend it in a little bit later with some Morrow white. Just keep working a mixture all around there. And then get yourself a real thin mixture. You can add the wash to the outside here, kind of create that glowing effect. Inks are great, man. I love inks. I'll use them quite a bit to enhance colors. Like you talk about red, I think to get a solid red you really need to use some ink. Not necessarily for the whole thing, but just for parts of it. Once you're done, that final wash of a red ink or application of a red ink really makes a big difference in the intensity of that color. You kind of got to move quick too, particularly on these orange surfaces, because you don't want to have any bathtub rings. So try and keep that edge wet and try and keep things moving so you can avoid that and not have any unsightly lines. So you see how that's looking? I mean, that's pretty basic. There's not a lot to it, guys. Of course, there's more complicated ways to do OSL lighting if you want, but with an airbrush and some ink, and actually get some decent results. Alright, so let me set this down for a second. What you want to do now is get some frostbite and get some Morrow white, both P3 colors. The gems were originally painted in frostbite, so what we're going to do now is just kind of recapture where we got a little too far with the ink. Just kind of recapture that base color back in. And you want to, keep this coat a little thin, so that way, you can kind of wet blend the edge of it if you need to. But honestly, for the most part, Anthony, it can be a hard line edge, and people aren't really going to notice, especially on, tabletop type stuff. So then you'll take some of the frostbite, recapture probably the top, 40%, 40 to 60% of the gem, depending on the size of it. And this just kind of reestablishes the center, or the brightest source of the light. Now these larger gems, you may have to blend the edge just a little bit, or not, just depends on how it turns out. And then these inner ones here, same on this side. Okay. And then now this one here. So that. Run my air dryer for a second, dry these up so I can move on to the highlight. Okay, now we're going to move on to Morrow white, and then the Morrow white we're going to try and keep in the center of all these gems, just a little dot of it. Try to make the dot smaller than the original frostbite dot that you had put down. And that, I think, is what really makes the the glow effect pop. Is that central light dot. Doesn't have to be perfect. Remember, Anthony, you're going for tabletop here. Try and paint your entire army to display standards and it burns you out for a year. You can ask my buddy Brendan that question. He'll answer it for you. Okay, so that's that shoulder done. Let's set this aside to dry before I mount it. We'll move on to now the big fin thing, whatever this is. I have no idea. I'll keep my wet palette here so you guys can see what I'm doing. My autofocus take over there. Now what you want to try and avoid is, you see how I have it, the ink concentrated right here, but it's not there. So that area may take a couple of coats to get that color thinned out, and try and pull those out before they dry too much. Otherwise you're left with a pretty poor looking result. Good tip for you guys when you're painting fine lines like this. I know it sounds odd, but don't focus on trying to keep your hand steady. Instead, try and focus on your breathing. Focus on the air in and out. In through your nose, out through your mouth. By focusing on what's not important in the moment, you'll be able to achieve what you want there. And you might find a little insight as to the type of person you are too. That's a side benefit. Alright, so that's that side about done. So we'll move on to the other side here. if you like Retribution, next Saturday most likely I will be doing a couple of Retribution jacks on a PaintCast in green, bright neon green, so that should be a lot of fun. I'm actually looking forward to it because it'll be a change of pace from purple. It seems like that's all I've been doing lately. Alright, so now let's thin this out a little bit. We'll get this front piece here. And then drop a little bit in each of these. I guess this is the equivalent of the smokestack, right? On a jack? I don't know. Who knows? I don't play Ret, and I know nothing about the fluff, other than that they're angry elves. Yes, green, not purple. I'm hopefully done with working on purple for a while. Seems like all I've been doing lately in my paint casts have been purple. It's a great color and all, but there is a lot more color out there, folks. I've got a Bradigus here that I've got to do a paint cast for too. I'll probably finish up this week, and he's in purple with green glows. Maybe I'll work on him tomorrow night. This other side here. Add some white. Remember, that's what it is that's going to sell it, no matter the color you're using. You're doing a yellow OSL, you're doing a red, blue, pink, whatever. You got to have that center a white color in order to sell the effect, otherwise it won't work. Alright, that's about it. So I think I'm going to wrap up for tonight, guys. I will be on, though, again tomorrow night. And like I said, tomorrow night I'm going to be working on this guy right here. Got some Bradigus that we're going to be finishing up. I'm going to be doing the stones on him and talking about how to do the glowing effect on that. Depending on how the bronze back looks, I may be working on that a little bit too. We'll see how well that paint dries. Otherwise, I've got some work on my on the galleon to do that needs to be weathered, and I've also got some trolls that I'm working on that I can do. But I will be on tomorrow night. But to those of you that tuned in tonight, thanks a lot, guys, for checking in. I appreciate you being in here. I think at one point, wow, look at that, we're up to 23 viewers for the night. That's fantastic. I haven't had that many on ever, I think. So thank you guys for being on. I appreciate it. Make sure to subscribe to my channel. That way when I do go live, you get an email notification that I am on and streaming. If you have any questions from tonight's PaintCast, or just in general, even pricing or getting your own PaintCast tutorial done, feel free to email me at redmodeling@gmail.com. You can also hit me up on Facebook at facebook.com/red modeling paint. Thanks again, guys. Appreciate you being here tonight, and you all have a nice evening. Good night.